Hi everyone, thanks for coming back to my channel. I'm back again for another Eurovision 2020 related video, and today I'm going to be discussing my top 10 least favourite entries from this year. I just want to be disclaiming two things. Firstly, I apologise for this contraption here. I'm not technologically blessed. I don't have the right equipment, but I'm trying to help you guys because I do not want you to hear the grainy sound that comes out of my laptop when I film it without a microphone. So bear with me with this contraption thing. This is the best I can do for the time being. My second disclaimer is that I'm going to be giving my personal opinion on my least favourite songs. Please, when I say this, I'm not trying to offend anyone. And also, when I'm talking about the music, I'm talking about it from a perspective of a classically trained musician, because that's what I am. I'm not criticising the entrants as people. I'm not criticising the people or the countries in question. I'm just talking about the music, because that is what Eurovision is about. It's about the music. So without further ado, I'm going to get straight on with it, and I'm going to try and make sure this video doesn't go on too long. I'll timestamp it for you in the comments section, so please stay with me if you can, and I'm going to give my top 10 least favourite songs from this contest and why. So I'm going to start with from 10 to 1. So we're starting with Cyprus. So unfortunately Cyprus has fallen a little bit on the wayside for me this year. It was doing really well 2 years ago with Fuego. It came second, and I feel like that's a sort of trophy cabinet song now that everyone's going to remember for years to come. And then last year we had Replay, and that was also really good. Slightly in the same realm as Fuego, not quite as punchy, but still good. Unfortunately this year they've decided to go in a different direction, which is good, but they've gone in the wrong direction. They've chosen a house song that really doesn't have much of a melody that is memorable, and the lyrics don't help either. The lyrics are quite repetitive, and there's not very many lyrics in there. It's just I keep on running, I keep on running. Unfortunately there's this depiction of someone running, but the motion of the song doesn't move with the lyrical depiction, which that sort of discrepancy, it's not helpful. So they've done a song that's sort of like a disciple song from 5 years ago, so for me that's a little on the dated side. But also I think the song is just lacking in that oomph. It doesn't have that punch that Fuego or Replay had, therefore I don't think this would have qualified, but also I reckon this would have been one of their worst results. So I hope next year they can take this as a sort of a guideline as to what to do. What they need to do is have much more of their roots. What is Cypriot? They need a Cypriot sound that's modern, but it's not a copycat of Fuego. It has to be something new. People really respect when countries stay to their roots. You think of countries like Bosnia and Herzegovina getting so many points from the televote when they put out a traditional sounding song. Even Greece, when they do something traditional, people absolutely love it. So I think Cyprus needs to do the same thing. It'll be back on track. So my number 9 is San Marino. So they are becoming a little bit of a joke, unfortunately. Sometimes it works, like with last year's Sir Hat. Sometimes it doesn't, and I think this year it just wasn't working. To be honest, I quite liked the sound. I'm a big disco fan, and I'm a big neo-disco fan, so this was really, this is something I would go for, but I found the lyrics and the tune to be a little bit childish, and the music video was very poorly made, and that, to me, that kind of downgrades a song a little bit when they can't have supporting visual. So if you took the lyrics off and the melody off, it was actually quite good. The backing was really good. I love the violins, the traditional disco sound, but with the modern elements to it. That's brilliant. But yeah, the actual lyrical melodic content was not great. It is slightly memorable. I could probably recall the chorus a little bit. I couldn't do the lyrics, but I know the basic movements. So yeah, this wasn't my favourite entry from San Marino. I think they need to really step it up again next year. Because if they want to be in the final, they need to keep the jokey, but it's got to be good. It has to still be good. That kitsch novelty, it has to be quality at the same time, and people will respect it more. So my next number, I think 8, is Estonia. This was disappointing, to say the least. I think I was shocked at the result. When I heard that Ukoseviste won Estilo, I was like, really? I thought that Jakob Twist would win, even though Jakob Twist's song was very, very much Duncan Lawrence Part 2. That would have fared better in the contest than What Love Is, because What Love Is belongs in the late 90s at most. That song is, I'm sorry to Estonians, it's just not good. Lackluster, vanilla. It was just not something I would be proud of writing, let's just say. But also the guy's voice was just not suited to that sort of power ballady, uplifting sort of, I just feel feelings kind of thing. He's had a gravelly voice, and I feel like they could have done something a little more edgy to suit his gravelly voice, because it wasn't working in my opinion. And I think Estonia is a sort of Marmite country for me. Sometimes they do tracks I absolutely love, sometimes they do tracks I absolutely hate. Unfortunately this year it wasn't working for me. Next year they have to just do something different. Estilao contest is slightly losing its charm, and I feel like Lithuania is actually stepping up its game. So Estonia need to come back fighting next year, definitely. Next I've got Croatia. Again, I believe these two entries, Croatia and Estonia, were announced on the same day, and it was just such a disappointment for me. Dora this year was very underwhelming. Croatia's entries were just, there was nothing in there that I could have put my finger on and said this is going to qualify for the final and do top 10. None of the entries I could put my finger on and say this will qualify for the final. That's how ridiculously bad it was. I think they're in a bit of an identity crisis. They're stuck in 10-15 years ago sound, but they're trying to do this ethnic element, trying to put their own fingerprint on it, but it's not enough. And I think they're a country that could really surprise us in the future if they do something ethnic, true to their country's traditional sounds, but also something that's just so memorable, catchy, and something that everyone will love. They could actually win at some point. I think they need to step it up as well. I'm saying this about every country here. But Croatia, definitely, this year, I didn't like how they used the very boring 4-chord progression. I'm a big advocate for using more than 4 chords, more than 5, 6, 7 chords in a song. This used the very boring chord progression of 6, 4, 1, 5, which a lot of songs use in the charts, and I'm not the biggest fan of the charts, let's just say. I liked how it was in Croatian. I'll give that to them, because a lot of countries don't use her own language in songs, so I did enjoy that, but unfortunately it was just not working for me. The melody wasn't interesting enough. It's memorable but not interesting, and I like it when a melody has a big range and it jumps around and it's unexpected, but something you can still memorize, and I feel like this just wasn't, there was no signs of that in the song. Next, we have got at my number 6. I'm so bad at keeping up with these numbers. Number 6, I have the Czech Republic, and I'm really sorry about this, but this was actually a lot higher than this before the revamp came out. And that revamp was absolutely appalling. I have never witnessed a song that is so meh being turned into something so awful. Like, they made it worse because they added in a guitar line, but they didn't blend it into the original backing, so it ended up sounding like 2 songs were playing at the same time, but they were not complementing each other. They were sort of fighting each other. They put his vocal down, and actually his vocal was one of the best parts of the song. They lowered the volume of the vocal, and then they put in these odd sort of, I want to say coda, but I don't think many people understand what I mean by that. They did a little twiddle with the melody at the end, and they did basically the chorus, but they made it a little bit higher in the melody to change it up a bit. And I think it wasn't the best thing to do because it clashed with the chords. It didn't harmonise as well with the chords, that's all I'll say. So this was actually an alright song, and they made it worse, and I just couldn't believe my ears when I heard the revamp. I was so excited as well because I thought they were going to work miracles, but they tried to polish a turd, and it actually ended up just polishing a turd with another turd. That's the most I could say, really. So next year they better, I don't know, they gotta do something else, because Olga Lunova's song was quite good and they should have chosen that. They didn't. Next year, if she came back and did something a little bit more up-tempo, maybe she could go through to the contest, and I think she would do quite well because she's a good live singer. So next, my number 5 is Ireland. Some people really like this song. To me, this was just, everything about it made me cringe. The lyrics were just, and again, I'm not trying to offend people because I know this was an LGBT positive song, and that's great, but at the same time the lyrics were so childish, cringy. That bit that goes na 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 was so it's so childish, and I don't know why they use that melody, because everyone would recognise that melody as a kid's melody. Yes, mainly this song was stuck in 2009, and I could particularly say 2009 because it sounded like a knockoff from Katy Perry's first album. It was just, it's like hot and cold, that song. It wasn't working. It really wasn't working, and I was really hoping that Ireland would come back for glory because they have won the most times, and they've just lost their way. And it's the first time where I've actually think that the UK song was better than Ireland. That is quite rare to say in this day and age. What they need to do is, again, go back to Irish sound. What isn't a traditional Irish sound blended in with modern, with good lyrics, good songwriting, and a good singer? And I think people appreciate that because they did really well in the past. I could just imagine a traditional Cady band. Why not that? But just something entertaining. Because what they did this year is they built it all up saying, oh, this is going to be like Euphoria part 2. And this was not Euphoria part 2. Let me be clear. This was the furthest from Euphoria you could possibly go, because even Euphoria was more ahead of its time than this. So the Irish need to step up. I'm sorry, this is embarrassing now. I'm half Irish, sort of, I think, half Scottish. Irish and Scottish half. they need to really do something about this, because it's not good enough. And they have a good music industry, let's be honest. They have a good music industry. They need to exploit their music industry and use it for Eurovision, and stop acting like Eurovision is this kitsch funny contest where everyone dresses up as drag and sings stupidest songs that are from stuck 20 years behind the current musical trends. Actually, no, it's not like that. It's really talented musicians, really talented songwriters writing great songs that represent a country's traditional sounds and what you would hear if you went there and went to a nightclub, and then putting it forward to a contest, putting some great staging behind it. Ireland's just come on. They can do so much better than this. I'm going to move on because I could rant forever. So my number 4 is Armenia. They are one of my favourite countries in the contest. Except for this year, and I'm so sorry to Armenian fans. This just was not hitting it for me. I'm not the biggest fan of trap music. It's not my cup of tea, let's be frank. What they could have done in the revamp, because the revamp they did for Chains on You by Athena Manoukian was, they elevated it. They definitely made it better than it was before. They improved the production. They added in a bridge, which was like a dance break. That was a good bit. But and this is my pet peeve, there's a section of the song where it gives this sort of ethnic drum, where you'd imagine a traditional dance happening, but it's just the drum and a very low sub-bass sound, and absolutely no ethnic instruments on top of that. They needed to add some ethnic instruments. Forgive me, I do not know the names of these instruments, but I could imagine a pipe, a flute-like instrument like that, maybe a guitar-looking instrument as well. I apologise as I don't know the names of these instruments. Like a balalaika, a Russian balalaika, but an Armenian version. Don't kill me in the comments, please. If they added something like that on top of this ethnic-sounding drum beat, would have just been... And they didn't do that, and that's what they needed. And also I just didn't like how the chorus was spoken. Chains on you. Just, they could have done something with a melody at least. This is purely because I don't like trap music. I don't like spoken word choruses or any part of a song that's overused. So yeah, I just couldn't score this any higher, unfortunately. One of my favourite entries ever from Eurovision is Inga and Anush, Jan from 2009, Armenia. One of my favourite entries ever. It's just so catchy. I could dance to it all day. I know all the words even though I don't speak Armenian. That's how much I love this country's songs. So please, Armenia, next year just do something ethnic, because the Eurovision fans love ethnic stuff from you. Please. Okay, my number 3 is Belarus with David Na. This again, very, very boring. Firstly, thank you, Belarus, for doing something in Belarusian. It's great to hear your native language in a song. But the song was just lackluster. Not much going on, and it's a little bit too slow, I feel, because you have this chorus drop where it's just a dance break, and when there's a dance break you want it to be a little bit more up tempo so there's more danceability. Instead it sort of kept this sort of da 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 da, that kind of tempo. It's just not good enough for what they were trying to achieve, I feel. Yeah, and she was wearing a silver headdress in the national finals. They're trying to, in my opinion, you could wear the brightest colour, gold headdress, silver headdress, rainbow headdress, and it's not going to take away from the fact that the song was not good. So, last year's entry from Belarus, Xena and Like It, that was a good song. I enjoyed that. It was a little cheesy, but you know, sometimes I sit at the piano and just play it because I find it really catchy. So I feel like next year they need to do something again like that. People will enjoy that. This year I did not see this qualifying at all. Apologies to Belarusian fans who like this song as well. Not my cup of tea. I feel like they could have done so much more with it, but mostly it was just a tempo issue. It needed to be faster. Then they could have added more into it. So, my number 2 is Belarus. No, it's not. What am I saying? It's Portugal. I had to pause the video because one of my family members came in and I don't think they want to be broadcast online. So yeah, sorry, my number 2 is Portugal. Apologies. Yeah, this was not hitting it for me. Medo Decentia. This song was very slow, very... It was just like a slug moving slowly across a pathway for me. That's what it sounded like. It was just like, please speed up, please add more instruments. But the worst thing about this was their live performance of it was... don't get offended. The vocals were just not working. The girl on the piano who was providing backing vocals was very flat on top of Eliza's vocals, and it was making Eliza sound more out of tune than she was. They needed more singers providing thicker harmonies, and they needed a more interesting melody line. I mean, thank you Portugal once again for sending something in Portuguese. Absolutely brilliant choice. But Barbara Tinoco's Passepartout was right there, and you didn't select it, and I just couldn't believe it when I heard the news, and I listened to the song they selected, and it was just not hitting it. They could have done so much better, and it's such a shame because that country won in 2017, and that was an absolute quality. It's one of my favourite songs from Eurovision ever. But yeah, this year this would have come in the last place for the semi-final. A lot of people like this song as well. Maybe the studio version is slightly better. The live version was just one of the worst live performances of a song I've seen this year. So I think next year they need to do something like what Barbara Tinoco did this year. An old school sounding, with a French sound actually, funnily enough. An old school sound, danceable, cute, smiley, friendly, accessible piece of music. What they done this year was just too slow and too boring. I'm just being blunt here. They were just not having a good year. I'm gonna move on. I don't want to keep you guys too long here. So my least favourite song, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is France. Talk about disappointing. This, funnily enough, the story of me listening to You Are the Best in Me by Tom Leeb for the first time was that I actually clicked on a Tom Leeb song called, I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of his most famous songs, because I was on my morning commute and I didn't pay attention to the song I was clicking on, thinking that this was their Eurovision song, and it wasn't. It was a really nice acoustic guitar, beautiful song. I really enjoyed it, and then I looked and I was like, this was released 2 years ago. Wait a minute. And it's because I listened to the wrong song. So then I listened to the correct song and I thought, why is Sweden pretending to be France? Because this was so Swedish, and I'm not talking about an ABBA sort of Swedish, I'm talking about John Lundvik 2019-2020 sounding Swedish ballad that, to be honest, was an off-cut entry from a Westlife album from 20 years ago, 2001, 2002. This could have been played after My Love by Westlife, because it's so dated, anthemic, but in a cheesy way. The Best in Me is probably the worst entry of this year, purely because France has such a French identity in Eurovision. They do all their point systems in French. They speak French during the contest to help the French and Belgian fans watch the contest and understand everything. So this year they've gone and done a song in English with absolutely no French characteristic whatsoever. And to me, that is a pet peeve when a country does that. This was so Swedish from start to finish. If sorry, bit of a pun there. If Sweden had put this out themselves, this would have done fairly well, and it would have been more forgiving of this type of song. But no, France, do not let John Lundvik come anywhere near your songwriting team next year. John Lundvik gave the UK last year a last place. So please, this would have come last in the final, let's just be honest here. Apologies to French fans who like this song, but I think you're few and far between, let's be honest. So yes, that is how I would have scored my bottom 10 entries. What would I have said as my honourable mentions? Probably Moldova, Finland and Australia were not my favourite pieces of music, but they didn't make the cut into my least favourite. So tell me what you think in the comments. What was your least favourite 10 songs from this year? Why? And also if you agree with my opinion. But please, if you don't agree with my opinion and you hate me, don't tell me in the comments, because I don't really want to know. But I hope everyone has a good week. If you're enjoying yourself at home, stay safe everyone, and please recommend another video you want me to make within this topic as well. I'd be happy to share my comments and thoughts on other Eurovision songs from different years as well. So yeah, hope you all have a nice day, and I'll see you soon.